Hello, everyone. My name is Olivia. I'm 47 years old, and this is one of the most unbelievable stories I've ever experienced. Even now, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it, but I can't stop replaying the events in my mind.
He mentioned feeling uneasy about my decision to pursue a doctorate, saying he wasn't fond of women who believed they were more intelligent than him. I had a date with a guy who repeatedly interrupted me and eventually admitted, "I just really enjoy cutting you off because you make this weird face when I do." I wrapped up the date 5 minutes later. Edit. Yes, I meant weird, not word. Hey. It wasn't the first date, but our initial time being intimate. I'd forgotten my Nuva ring was still in, so penetration caused pain. Confused and worried, I couldn't understand why it hurt. He, however, looked smug and self-assured, seemingly interpreting it as validation of his size, and said, "Don't worry, you'll get better at handling it." For the record, I've never had issues in that department. I live with my mom because all 3 of my children's mothers demand child support. Absolutely not. ETA. He wasn't just stating this. He was complaining. He whined that if these women didn't insist on child support, he could afford to live on his own. He even lamented having to put dinner on his credit card, claiming he was always broke due to these payments. I paid for my own meal, by the way. I don't mind doing so, especially on the first date, so there's no expectation of reciprocation, but he had to charge his $12 Denny's meal. Yes, he insisted on Denny's to his credit card. I can't date someone disabled. I wear an ankle brace that isn't noticeable unless I point it out. I don't wear shorts because I'm self-conscious about it. She only discovered it because I loosened the brace at the table to relieve the discomfort from wearing it tightly for too long. Don't call me. My husband checks my phone. I'm sharing everything we talk about on Instagram and getting my followers' input on what to ask you. I excused myself to the restroom and never returned. Poor people shouldn't get assistance. They just need to stop being poor. I can't believe I went out with someone who embodied an internet meme. I expect women to be hairless below their eyebrows. I took a guy to a beloved Italian restaurant, a family-run establishment known for its fantastic food despite a modest appearance. The moment we sat down, he sneered, "Salt and pepper shakers on the table. What is this, Waffle House?" His dismissive attitude about a place I'd praised stuck with me, and I couldn't overlook it. Within moments of meeting, he brought up how he needed the medical examiner to expedite his wife's death certificate so he could use the insurance payout for a business venture. She had drowned in the bathtub while intoxicated. His first wife, he claimed, had died from a fall. Somehow, this man worked for a major airline, and I began to wonder if they had a serial killer on staff. For context, I have cerebral palsy. Although it's not always obvious because I've adapted well, growing up I needed extensive physical and occupational therapy. Currently, I struggle with balance, spatial awareness, and muscle coordination. I managed to secure a date with a stunning woman who checked all my boxes. She was attractive, kind, and charming. The date seemed to be going wonderfully. We both enjoyed ourselves, even held hands briefly, and the evening flew by. Toward the end, we decided to take the subway to a favorite bar of mine across town. While riding, she noticed a sign stating that seated passengers must give up their seats to elderly or disabled individuals in need. She openly expressed her disdain for accommodations for disabled people, labeling them as burdens on society. She went further, saying that anyone who requires accessible parking or seating should be institutionalized. Her attitude shifted completely, and for a moment, she seemed like a different person. I finished the date, but knew in my heart that no amount of physical beauty could outweigh such ugliness inside. About an hour after I got home, she messaged me, saying she had a great time and asking for a second date. I politely declined and explained that as a disabled person, her remarks on the subway were deeply hurtful. She never responded. When I shared this with a friend, they were annoyed I rejected someone so attractive, until I explained what had happened. That was the end of that. A woman, 26F, I dated while I was 25M, told me, "I only work 2 days a week and it's so exhausting." Mind you, these were regular 8-hour shifts. She admitted she just worked to pay the minimum on her debts and lived with her parents, who wanted her to find a partner so she could move out. She had absolutely no drive to do anything beyond securing a boyfriend to support her. He rambled on about a trip he took with his old college friends, and I began tuning him out. Then he casually said, "My friend Rob joked, 'Wait until these women figure out we're not choking them because they like it.' Ha 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 ha." It took me far too long to process what he just shared. Basically, he was either admitting to hating women or found his friend's misogyny entertaining, all while on a date with me, a woman. Needless to say, that date ended quickly. We went to a club filled with dancing and music. A heavily intoxicated woman was stumbling around on the dance floor, clearly too drunk to function properly. I couldn't understand how she was even standing and told my date, 30F at the time, that I wanted to locate her friends to ensure she got home safely. I mentioned that the sight made me sad and concerned for her well-being. My date's response: "Most girls have fantasies about being assaulted, so she'd probably enjoy it." Horrified, I rejected his invitation to stay over that night and braved the NYC subway alone at 2 a.m. There was absolutely no second date. My date yelled at our Uber driver for being a couple of minutes late. I felt completely humiliated to be out with someone who treated service workers so poorly. My date told me, "You're not black enough for me." I excused myself to the bathroom, left through the side door, and stuck her with the check. I went out with a woman who spent the entire time talking about herself. She didn't ask me a single question. I'm decent at keeping conversations going and enjoy learning about others, so I kept asking her questions. But aside from that, I barely spoke. Ironically, the only person who showed any interest in me that evening was our server. He revealed, "I was a suspect in the murder of my third wife. They never found out who killed her." At that point, I realized he'd seated himself so that the exit was behind him while the bathroom was behind me, meaning I couldn't discreetly escape. I endured the remainder of the date, ensuring I got home safely. After that, I ghosted him, the only time I've ever done so. She called her ex-boyfriend stingy because he only took her out to eat 2 or 3 times a week and cooked meals the rest of the time. We had a fun time at the first bar and then headed to a second one. As soon as we arrived, music was playing and people were dancing. She began mocking a woman who was enjoying herself on the dance floor and even drew the attention of others around us to join in ridiculing her. When she wasn't paying attention, I left. I explained that I don't drink because of my past struggles with substance abuse. He responded by suggesting we head to his place and take shots. As I stepped out of my car in the parking lot to meet him for dinner, he shouted from 20 feet away, "OMG, you lied. You said you were 5 feet 8 inches. You're at least 5 feet 10 in heels. Do you know how embarrassing this is for me?" Without even exchanging greetings, I got back in my car and left. He was 5'10", which I didn't mind at all, but clearly he did. It was a bizarre encounter. She launched into a loud anti-immigrant tirade while we were in a crowded donut shop. Her back was to the crowd, so she didn't see the looks from everyone, but I could see them as I was facing the other customers. It was mortifying. I asked her what she enjoyed doing or what her hobbies were. She replied, "Netflix and talking to boys." I said, "Oh, I like Netflix too. What shows do you watch?" She answered, "I just like having something on in the background while I sit there. I don't have favorite shows. I don't enjoy anything that makes me sweat, and I'm not into hobbies." That was it for me. I ended the date after about 25 minutes. She didn't seem to like anything, and as someone who's the complete opposite, I couldn't deal with that attitude. "Are you sure you want to eat that?" he asked when I ordered fried banana peppers alongside my small salad. For context, I was 118 pounds and worked out regularly. Thankfully, his judgmental comment saved me from second-guessing canceling a drink date I had lined up with another guy. Instead, I went on that date, and the man I almost canceled is now my husband. So, thank you, Judgy McJudgerson, for being an ass. The date went really well. We were both looking for something casual, and the chemistry between us was great. However, the goodbye kiss was lackluster, and his final comment sealed the deal for me. "Cool, it'll be a few weeks, but I'm sure I can fit you into my rotation." I wasn't expecting exclusivity, but if your roster is so full that I'd have to wait weeks for a spot, I doubt my enjoyment would be a priority. Hard pass. One guy spent the entire date talking non-stop about his ex, repeatedly insisting, "But I'm totally over her." It got to the point where he showed me photos of her and even pulled up her social media to point out that she was now dating someone else. I realized he just needed someone to vent to, and since I didn't have anything better to do, I let him talk. The date ended up lasting 2.5 hours. I went out with a guy who couldn't stop bringing up things Andrew Tate had said about women and dating. Every discussion about modern relationships turned into him quoting something this man said. 1. Andrew Tate is awful. 2. Formulate your own thoughts instead of parroting someone else's. I'm here to date you, not Andrew Tate. She said something along the lines of, "I have 2 kids. Don't waste my time unless you're ready to be a father to them." While I'm fine with the idea of dating someone with children, that approach was off-putting to me.